Do I sound good?
Yeah, you guys sound great.
Yeah.
Talking right into my ears.
By the way, he's going to tell you sound great anyway.
No,
He's not a liar. I know, Ari.
I will fix the mic.
No. It's just the sound of her voice. That's annoying.
He lives with me.
Welcome back to Dad. Did we just break America?
I'm Skylar, your resident Gen Z doom scroller.
And I'm Corey, your cynical Gen Xer, and I am extra cynical today.
Okay, why?
Well, we've been talking with our good friend Ira Kohler.
Dearest friend.
Okay, I said good, you say dearest, different generations of the way we speak. But in any event, I'm very cynical over something yesterday, Ira, and thank you for being here, and welcome back to part 2 of our wonderful time with you. Yesterday, I was walking through the city with my wonderful wife, and we passed by the New York Public Library.
Okay.
And there was a Palestinian demonstration. Big giant sign, Israel killed 50,000 children. Okay. And whether that's true or that's not true, or somehow has the facts wrong or incorrect or whatever, my whole premise now, of course, I didn't have a microphone. I didn't have a speaker.
He
There was
wishes
no
he did.
platform. I wish I did. Because my retort to that would have been, excuse me, didn't Hamas on October 7th enter a sovereign country, kill, rape, mutilate, and burn women, children, and men? But that's okay. We don't talk about that. The double standard. But anyway, I'm sorry, that was my...
That's
My
okay.
se-
Are you doing okay now?
I feel a little bit better, I shared.
Okay, that's good.
But that's what's making me cynical. The double standard, to me, is one of the biggest jokes on the planet, that there are people running around demonstrating in the United States for something they actually know nothing about.
Palestine's not a place, also.
Well, that's part number one.
Sorry
No.
to be so controversial. It's not a place.
Number two, about something that isn't even happening here.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you guys for the invitation to part 2.
Thank you for
On
coming back
podcast.
and indulging me.
It is such a pleasure to be here. I'm excited also in the conversation to get into a little bit about our time, nighttime in Gaza, because
Yeah.
a lot of what we focused on in part 1 was the night leading up to my time in Israel, my decision to move and to serve in the IDF, and then throughout my time on October 7th. And today I know a huge focus will be on my time in Gaza. And you bring up the great point in the beginning about what you see on the flip side in America, a lot of the reactions from the war. And I hope that in our conversation today, we get a lot into the weeds of what I experienced, my firsthand account, because that's really all I could share. And to kind of delve into a lot of these kind of fallacies that we see on the streets, and disprove it to a sense, but also to bring the reality to the situation.
Yeah, so I guess we could start in Gaza. I guess I think about this, and I thought about this while I was reading your book. Like, I could only imagine what it looks like to enter Gaza. And sometimes, like, I'm Googling about it because it confuses me. But that's
You're confused about entering Gaza?
It's a personal problem. But I feel like we've all imagined what that would be like. So can you take me there? Like, what does that actually feel like? What does that look like? What's going on?
Yeah, well, the first thing I'll say is that, there are these places in the world that, to me, are so foreign.
Yeah.
In the sense that they live in this alternate reality in my life, that I know there's crazy stuff happening there, that I physically, as Ira Kohler, will never actually be in those physical places. Whether that be North Korea or, like, I'm being genuine, North Korea
No, I know.
and Gaza, right? These are places that you hear that throughout your entire life of like terror and different thorns, but people brainwashed an alternative reality that's unlike our own. And I felt like when I was going to, because I knew for many weeks after October 7th, then an entrance into the Gaza Strip was inevitable. One, it was talked about across the country and across the world, but even on the ground in the army, it was very clear. We were all telling each other, and our commanders are telling us, we're going to enter Gaza. We don't know when it's going to be that it's going to happen. So I knew it was on the horizon. When the day actually came, we were brought to a forest right outside the Gaza Strip, waiting for basically vehicles to take us in. And I remember those moments very, clear, because I think I talked about in the last podcast that you had this, you affiliate locations to where you are at specific moments, in the sense that everyone knows where they were when they heard that October 7th. Everyone knows where they were when they heard that 9/11. You take back to previous generations, to the killing of JFK and all these significant moments. When I was going to Gaza, it was one of these moments I'm going to remember every moment about this situation. Heading into the Gaza Strip was like this surreal experience, because I suddenly walk in, you enter this alternative reality that I think I mentioned this a little bit, maybe very briefly on our last episode. The idea very much softened the blow for us within the Gaza Strip. And what I mean by that is that the IDF throughout the war was in a very unique situation in Israel's history, because it was the first time that Israel was using the full force of its military against a terrorist organization. The only time Israel has really used the full force of its military has been against other countries, Six-Day War, Yom Kippur War, and those earlier wars. Any of these recent operations against terror operations, whether it be 2006 against Hezbollah, all the small Gaza operations, has not used the full force of the IDF. We were entering into a new situation where the IDF was using the Air Force to strike buildings, the Navy offshore, artillery, tanks rolling in, and me as an infantry soldier with my equipment and gun, I was the last guy in with my team. So when we would get into these areas, we're seeing areas barren, many buildings destroyed, other buildings hit, not fully destroyed, in a ghost town, like literally a ghost town. And that was my entrance into Gaza. I'll even say that one of the questions I usually get asked is, people ask me about the people. How are the people in Gaza? And what do I say? I don't know. Like, I really, and I'm genuine. It sounds maybe a little bit funny at first, but Israel was very clear from the start of the war. There's two places in Gaza at first for any Gazan, where a Gazan could be and where you can't be. Essentially, where's a military area where the IDF will operate, and where's what is called a humanitarian zone where Gazans could roam freely. We were solely operating as an infantry unit, a major force in the IDF, solely operating in military areas. And with that being said, we were very rarely encountering civilians, only if a civilian decided to stay. And I say civilian in quotes because obviously the line is blurred, that it's someone who is not going to attack us with weapons. That's what we would consider a civilian. And most of the people we would encounter would be active terrorists that were going to, actually attack us. And even with all of that, it kind of goes back to your original story of the 50,000 kids that are claimed to be killed. I will say, obviously, there were children that were killed during this war. It's not close to 50,000. And also the reasons behind why the kids are killed are super important to get to the full story. But we were not a part of any of that, mainly because our operations took place solely in the military zones.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you're saying, obviously, you're operating in the military zone, so how many hostiles were there in the military zones that you guys encountered, or was most of it just search and rescue? I mean, obviously, and we can get obviously to the questions about Omer, right, and searching for hostages and trying to get those people back, which is obviously as important as putting down the terrorist threat, or maybe more.
More important, yeah.
But were there a lot of hostile fighting that you encountered, or was everything destroyed from the air and from the sea, and you guys were just doing search and rescue?
So it's a really good point, and I'll kind of hit on a few things. The first thing is that it was very dependent on the area of Gaza we were in. For example, the first 2 weeks, we actually really barely encountered anything. We were in Gaza City along the beach. There was very little terrorists there. other areas of the Gaza Strip, namely when we were in Sajaiya, the neighborhood of Zaytun in Gaza City, and then also Khan Yunis, were the pockets where I was, where we encountered the most terrorists. That's the first thing. The second thing is that our goal as a major force entering into the Gaza Strip had nothing to do with search and rescue. It had everything to do with entering into areas, searching for terrorists, terrorist infrastructure, any intelligence that could bring us closer to terrorists or terrorist infrastructure, and any intelligence that could bring us closer to the hostages. There were some special forces units that did specific operations within specific areas to rescue hostages, and we know that some success stories throughout the war. That's not what we were doing in the least bit. The Air Force and the artillery and the Navy offshore very much softened the blow for us, as I was mentioning earlier. And most of the terrorists that remained in the areas that we were operating in were, quite honestly, underground. And we joked around about this a lot, that it was a game of whack-a-mole. That they would be underground, they'd come up, and they'd shoot a rocket towards our direction or, shoot gunfire. And basically the IDF, whether it be an airstrike, a tank, or a soldier with his gun, would have to, basically whack the mole before the mole goes back underground.
I wonder about that. Like, when do they come up?
So it depends.
Like, are they nocturnal?
No, it's it's actually. What's actually interesting about that?
I'm genuinely
A lot
curious.
of it, they would sometimes come up during the middle of the night because that's when we are at our most vulnerable state.
Yeah.
As far as the amount of terrorists there, when terrorists would come up and attack us, our operations in Gaza were very, very, very methodical and very organized. In the sense that, I know we talked a lot about October 7th on the previous episode. The fighting on that day, and I talk a lot about in the book about this, it was raw. In the sense that when we entered into the kibbutz, into Be'eri in the early hours, there were no tanks there. There was no there was an air force, but you couldn't strike a building in the middle of the civilian, community. It just wasn't possible. The fighting was as raw as our guns versus their guns. It was, as I read in the book, it was stripped of all of the capabilities of the IDF. If there was a terrorist spotted in Gaza, there's an officer who works, with our battalion, who basically communicates directly with the Air Force. And the first thing is to get everyone away, and the location where the terrorist is to strike the area. Because they don't want a soldier like me with, just my equipment and my gun going to the area. Then tanks will go and blow up the area. And then finally, would be an infantry soldier like me. And essentially, it's just to verify that the terrorist is no longer there. And that's when people ask about the hand-to-hand combat. And when I say hand-to-hand, I mean not literal hand-to-hand, but the gun-to-gun combat wasn't as prevalent in Gaza because of all the other capabilities that the IDF has.
Can I ask you, you were very, and we talked about this in the last episode, you were very honest in the book, and we both really appreciated that. I'm wondering if there's something that you saw in Gaza that, like, maybe was just, like, too much for people to read.
I'll say that even October 7th, there were some more visuals that were just harder. That a lot of the stuff with the dead bodies were definitely tough. And quite honestly, at a certain point, it doesn't even matter if it's a dead body of an Israeli or a terrorist inside of Gaza, because at a certain point when the body becomes so decomposed, the weird thing is you can't tell, who that person is. There were some sites in Gaza, like the one that's always stuck on my mind is I literally was walking, I saw a head just on the ground, a head detached from the neck on the ground, a bunch of flies flying around it, eating at the head. And like you saw that the dogs there roam freely. And there was a terrorist that was eliminated close to our compound when we were in Khan Yunis. And there were dogs there that went up and started chewing at eating the meat of the body. Like, you saw these things, and it's like really weird to see. And I didn't include some of these visuals, honestly, intentionally.
Why don't we now discuss your friend Omer. What that was like. You both went and made Aliyah and went to serve independently, right?
Yeah, we both made our own decisions to serve.
And you were friends for how long before you did that?
I've known him since I was 5, 6 years old.
Okay.
Like I probably even maybe before that. I don't know.
So did you both go at the same time, or he went before you, or you?
So good question. So Omer and I grew up as childhood friends, and I often say with childhood friends, you don't really know where you met. It's not like, oh, I met them at this college or at that bar or whatever. You just grow up together, and that was the relationship that I had with Omer, to the extent that we'd grow up going to each other's houses, playing sports together, Shabbat dinners. I even was with the Neutra family last night on Long Island. That was the extent, and we both grew up similarly and differently in the same Jewish institutions, day school, synagogue, all of that. But Omer's parents are Israeli. Most of his family is Israeli. I'm pretty American. My parents and my entire family is not only American, but New York based.
Mm-hmm.
He decided after high school to do a gap year in Israel, and then instead of going to college, he went to the IDF. I went to college first, graduated from college, and then went to the IDF. It ended up being that he moved to Israel a year before me. He obviously went to the tanks unit. I went to the paratroopers. And then on October 7th, he was taken hostage. He ended up being killed that day, though we didn't know that at the time. We didn't know for 14 months that he was actually killed on October 7th. And I found out, as I read it in the book, I found out a week later. That Sunday, that 8 days after October 7th, that he was a hostage. And we're getting into the Gaza party. Shait and I perspective, because I found out after the balagan, or the craziness of the days of October 7th, as we're preparing for Gaza, now learning that a friend of mine is hostage and taking that with me into the Gaza Strip, had profound significance.
Mm-hmm.
And I say it mainly because my outlook on being there was like, put me through all the, can I say shit on the podcast?
Yeah.
Like, put me through all the shit in Gaza. Nothing I'm enduring right now is worse than what my friend is going through. And if he's there suffering, not eating, not drinking, being tortured by his captors, and I'm above ground with my friends getting the support from the IDF just to carry out the operations that need to be, I'm willing to do this for as long as needed until Omer comes back.
Yeah, so you talk about almost like dreaming about finding Omer and him seeing a familiar face.
Yeah.
Omer was close with one of my sorority sisters. So very quickly after October 7th, we found out and we all went over and lit candles. And it very quickly made October 7th a story like I didn't have the honor of knowing Omer, but my friend cared so deeply about him. And you feel like you want to protect your friends.
Yeah.
Do you think that you needed that hope to get through like the tough days?
I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know if I needed it, but it helped a tremendous amount. I also came to Israel with the difference between me as a lone soldier choosing to do this and an Israeli who's born and knows that, maybe they had some motivation because they love their country, but they know they have to do this. Because I want to do this, I felt motivated even during the rough days, during my service before the war, about being there during the tough moments. That I knew what I signed up for. I chose this. That I think even if Omer wasn't a hostage and I wasn't fighting for a friend that is captive, I still would have had the motivation. But it certainly helped a lot. And I will say, because you bring up a great point that a sorority sister of yours knows Omer, and we all felt the connection immediately. As sad as this is, I felt like what Omer has done for our New York community is he's given us a responsibility not only to care, but to share the world about who he is and the decisions that he made. Because oftentimes in America, we want to, in the American Jewish community, especially after October 7th, we want to learn from the Israelis and the people that we lost. And Israeli families had this responsibility of saying, I want to, and I must share my child who was killed too young with the world, share who he was, that the person that made him, into a soldier, to be on the front lines. And we as Americans want to learn from that and be like, who were these people? That they're own there. It's our responsibility here to teach the rest of the world about where did Omer grow up, what inspired him to go into serving the IDF, and you know, I think because of that, it really deepens the connection that a lot of people, especially in the New York area, who either know Omer or know people who know Omer, are able to really fight, one, to bring him home, and now that he's home, to fight to keep his memory alive.
So you bring up a very interesting point of keeping that memory alive and what was the sacrifice for, right? But I mean, taking it back to, I guess, another way of looking at it, you're both United States citizens first, right? You feel, or as you said in the last episode, you grew up with a connection to Israel and what I guess is called today Zionism, right? Israel's right to exist and, the free association of that concept. Here in America, as non-Israeli citizens, but we believe Israel has the right to exist, but we're not patriotic about Israel because we're not Israeli citizens, right? We believe in its right to exist, but I've never lived there. I'm not an Israeli citizen. So it's not like I'm going to hold up the Israeli flag and say that over the United States. Why? I guess some people would ask you, even after reading the book, I come away from it saying, what you did is something that I could never do. And I have never done, obviously. I'm too old to enlist at this point. But why Israel and not serving in the United States?
It's a really good question, but I'll tell you that I am beyond patriotic. I love America and I love Israel. I never had an interest or desire to serve in the United States military, and not because I don't support the American military, not because I, don't see soldiers as heroes here as well. For me, I truly believe that Israel is not just a country of Israelis. Israel is the country of Jews around the world. We often create this equivalence of, what is Israeli patriotism? The word for patriotism in Israel is Zionism. Well, we're a Zionist here in America. We don't need to be Israeli to be Zionist. And one of the main reasons that we as Jews feel that way is that Israel was created with the foundation that it will be the home for the Jewish people all over the world. Whether you're born in Israel, you moved to Israel, or you never even touched foot in Israel, it is a home for the Jewish people. One, ancestrally, and two, in the modern world, it is our epicenter. I, with my upbringing, really thorned the connection to Israel and to the IDF because I will say that I was one more exposed to Israel and the IDF because every Israeli serves, and me growing up in a strong Jewish and Zionist household, that I not only went to Israel, but Israel was brought to my own home many times. I met so many Israelis who served and learned about what it means to serve. And I'll also say, for me, really, the ultimate decision was also that serving in the IDF is different than serving in the United States military. Because serving in the IDF, you are joining part of a mission where every Israeli says, and I read this a little in the book, how we had a dream for thousands of years to come home. May 14th, 1948, when Israel became a state, was that dream come true. And the next day we were at war. And there was this contract with everyone in the States. It's an unspoken contract that if Israel exists and our dream now has come true, we have the responsibility to keeping that dream alive. And every Israeli citizen, obviously with some exceptions that we don't want to get into now, every Israeli citizen serves in the IDF to keep that dream alive. And I want to be part of making that happen. And IDF soldiers stand guard right next to the homes of Israeli civilians, whereas in the United States military, it's super important what the soldiers are doing, but it's not as close to home. You're usually sent far away on, on tours to different countries where the mindset is a very different one. The IDF, you are literally protecting the bite.
Okay, so in saying that, and that's very, very true. There's a totally different aspect to service here than there is there. A lot of soldiers here get upset, and I understand how they're upset because they're protecting America, but they're being sent to outer Mongolia
For sure.
to supposedly protect some, democratic interest. Whether we believe that or not, we don't know. But now coming home, you come home after everything you've seen, everything you've been through. Omer passed away. He doesn't come back.
Yeah.
That's got to be difficult, I'm sure.
For sure.
And now seeing what's happening here, where there are all these protests, and probably, what was the date when you came back exactly?
I came back officially summer, about 2 years ago, summer 24.
Okay. So there are a lot of protests going on
Yes.
from people talking about Palestine, which is a place that doesn't exist. Okay.
Right?
Okay. Which is true. It doesn't.
No, it's not a place.
It's just not a place. And celebrities, American politicians.
Yes.
We can get AOC on the podcast.
I don't want to speak with her.
Okay. Well, I do.
Okay.
Okay. Talking about how horrible what's going on over there is, again, as I said before, never actually engaging the double standard of, now, if Canada crossed into the territory of the United States,
Yeah.
killed men and women, raped women, beheaded babies, burnt people. You're a former soldier for a sovereign country. How long do you think Canada would exist if that happened?
I think Canada would still exist. I don't think that they would. I don't think the United States would treat them softly at all. I think they would full force. Generally, any country in the world. I mean, you talk about all the numbers, and it's been shown, on every news site and article about the equivalence to October 7th happening in the United States, where the tens of thousands of people killed and, many more taken hostage as well. This happening in any other country, you would expect, and I'm going to even just focus on the hostages, because the lengths that Israel went to bring back the hostages shows more about what Israel is than what Hamas is, right? Because if Hamas, let's say, killed 1,200 people, didn't take a single person hostage, and Israel was retaliating to destroy Hamas, right? Israel has every right, not only right, but every responsibility to do so. Because Israel needs to make sure that what happened does not happen again. But beyond that, there were 250 people who were hostage inside the Gaza Strip that Israel had to bring home. You're telling me, as an American, that if that happened in Canada and your child was taken across the border and your country didn't do anything to try and bring them home, you would not be proud with your country. You want a country that's going to fight, do anything possible, that if you, God forbid, your child, your love of your life is taken hostage, that they will do everything in their power to bring them home. And that's what's so great about Israel. And that's why I also believed from the start of the war that bringing the hostages home is the most important, destroying Hamas and I'm going to say destroying Hamas is a vague term. Destroying Hamas's capability to do what they did again was really the main goal, instead of just destroying the ideology. It was more so the capability to do what they did. But the hostage idea tapped less so into the security of Israel and more so the mindset of what we are as a people. The fact that in Entebbe 50 years ago, when you guys know the story of Entebbe, when Israel went and rescued over 100 hostages in the airport overnight in a daring operation with Yoni Netanyahu, that's incredible, and that shows what Israel is willing to do. Israel had to bring every hostage home, and any country in the world, and I would hope America would do the same if an enemy, say like Canada, did to America.
Yeah, I mean, and the odds of Canada attacking the United States
are very low. Obviously.
Yeah, like slim to none.
But like if Iran was in Canada's location,
Right. And I'm saying that because, in my opinion, knowing what I know about American politics and about what would happen in the world, America would level Canada in 5 minutes.
yeah,
And Canada may cease to exist the way it is. It may be part of America soon, which of course Trump would like. But at the end of the day,
He'd be so excited.
we should make no excuse for what Israel did or does
yeah.
to protect itself, protect its citizens, get the hostages back, and protect its borders. But I guess to delve into it a little bit more, what does it feel like for you as an IDF soldier
Yeah.
coming back? Your friend, it doesn't come back. You come back and you see all of these demonstrations.
Can I say like two things that
Yeah.
will honestly be very sad and blunt? One, it was sad, obviously. The two, I wasn't shocked at all. Like the anti-Israel sentiment that we saw spike up after October 7th was so gruesome, mainly because of how gruesome October 7th was. The fact that, like, you know how you say, it's one of these, like, you hate Israel, and like you're not supporting Israel, but how after this, after you saw what happened on October 7th, they took GoPros and they filmed themselves doing this. You go on Telegram, I don't know if you guys ever scroll on Telegram, you're the doom scroller, and you find videos, uncensored videos of what Hamas is doing, and like gruesome things. Taking a person on the ground, taking an axe, person alive, and constantly hitting the guy's neck with a...
Yeah, no, I
with an
couldn't
axe.
sleep for like a long time.
Horrendous things, and we hoped that there would be a situation like this would show the rest of the world and every anti-Israel, self-proclaimed anti-Israel person, well, this was horrible, and that obviously did not happen. I was not surprised by really anything. That's the genuine answer, and it was all sad, and like it's still sad. Because you feel like nothing Israel could do or nothing that happened to Israel will change anyone's mind. Israel's always just going to be villainized by, a vast
So
majority
what
of the
life
world.
is different in Israel? And again, I've never lived there, so I don't know. But obviously, there's no anti-Semitism there, right? Because...
Well, sure. And like, if you want to consider a terrorist coming in to kill...
Well,
Israelis,
obviously there are terrorist incidents in the borders of Israel,
Yes.
but the majority of the country is Jewish.
Yes. There's not... Anti-Semitism is not the same as it looks in the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Obviously. But yes, there's terror, I guess, is very different than anti-Semitism.
Right. So, I mean, they live with terror every day. I
Yes.
get that. So that's a different issue.
For sure.
But,
You could call it an issue.
well, it's an issue.
Yeah. It's a
How
problem.
we deal with the issue is, but living with anti-Semitism here is a lot different than in most places in the world, but has become a new normal, unfortunately. And it's always been around. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not making excuses for anti-Semitism before this.
Yeah.
But after October 7th, you're right, there is an anti-Jewish and an anti-Semitism viewpoint and movement, if you will.
Yeah.
So it's got to be difficult for somebody who was in a country for a couple of
Yeah.
years where being Jewish is the thing because it's the Jewish state.
Yeah, but I'll even say with that, most of my time, and in some ways good, in some ways to my detriment, I am very surrounded by the American Jewish community. It's a community I grew up in. It's a community I came back to. I was working at a Jewish nonprofit. Most of my friend circle and family is all Jewish. That a lot of what I see is a lot of support, which is very good. And I'm seeing the outside, but I'm seeing it from an outsider's perspective. My friends are not the ones who are in the streets chanting, against Israel. My friends are the ones supporting me. It is very difficult. I really also unfortunately believe that like those who are so anti-Israel, it's this virus that literally nothing we could do will state anything will fix anything, and it was proven so strongly on October 7th that already that evening people in the world were calling it a genocide. What genocide was happening on October 7th, except for the one happening within Israel's borders by Hamas? It was so clear from the start that there was a campaign to slander Israel, no matter what Israel did or what happened to Israel. I also with that always think that Israel has to do the right thing and always be the bigger person.
Doesn't that like suck though?
Well, it sucks that you have to do it in a certain way. I don't think it should come to the you think of the interesting point because it doesn't come at the compromise of security and safety. I truly believe that Israel must do everything in its power to ensure that its people are physically and also mentally safe. They don't feel like an October 7th could happen again. That is extremely important. I also think that Israel's relationship with the UAE and Bahrain and hopefully Saudi Arabia is showing the rest of the world, even if those who are anti-Israel, at least in our sense, could be an argument, and rightfully so, that Israel doesn't hate Arabs as, you're slandering us for hating Arabs and all Muslims. We are willing to work and to strive and to build a better future with any country, whether that be Christian, Arab, or you name it, that will work with us. And if you're willing to kill us, we're willing to protect ourselves. I always say Israel always needs two hands. One hand in front of them, willing to shake the hand and to work with anyone who's genuinely, I say genuinely when I mean it, genuinely willing to work with Israel. And then another hand ready to draw any weapon to protect themselves if need be. That's what Israel, I believe, always has to do. And despite the slandering and the anti-Semitism and the protests that you see with the claims that are quite honestly outrageous, Israel needs to be the bigger person, protecting its people and showing the world that we are here to work with you if you are willing to work with us.
So what advice do you have to the next generation of Jews around the world?
Yeah, don't give up. And I say don't give up, not just fighting for Israel, because we can talk about advocacy and anti-Semitism on campus. I mean, don't give up on your Judaism. I think a lot of people feel like it's easier to live, they're Jewish and they know they're Jewish, but it's easier to live like an American life, to hang out with all the Americans, to not talk about Israel all the time, to, because it's too political, to know in your heart that you love Israel, but not to mention it so much, but to go to baseball games and to whatever. And
don't hate on the Yankees.
I'm the next fan. But to live this live this Americanish life and slowly kind of delve away from their true Jewish roots. We're so lucky to be Jewish. We really are. And we're so lucky to be living in a time with all the anti-Semitism in the world. The fact that we had a country of Israel, a place that God forbid something has really, really, if shit's hitting the fan in New York, where another Holocaust is on the loon, if Europe of the 1930s, 40s, we now know we're the place to go, a place that will accept us. This is something that Europe did not have 70, 80 years ago. And I feel like we should feel lucky, but beyond that, and most importantly, to continue being Jewish, to be proud Jews, Zionists, and to not lose faith and hope just because the haters are hating.
A part that stood out to me in the book, I went to Binghamton. Everybody should know that. He doesn't care.
Okay, go Binghamton.
Your sister went to Binghamton, and you talk about my favorite event in the book. So I got so excited. I felt like you were shouting me out.
I was.
No, you weren't. You didn't know me. You talk about SantaCon.
Yeah.
And it made me think about this kid who's really just a boy from Plainview and could have chosen so many different paths. And one year you were at SantaCon in Binghamton with your sister, And the next year, the first time you spoke to your sister from Gaza.
Yeah, you gotta get a little context. What is SantaCon? Like, I literally just came from saying how everyone should, like, do try to their Jewishness and like.
And SantaCon is a beautiful.
It is a great event, but it's less about Santa and more about college kids just partying.
Yeah, it's just a party
It's
around Christmas
It's a
time.
Christmas themed party at college with like peppermint drinks and Christmas themed drinks.
Yeah, and whipped cream.
Of course. So it brings me actually an interesting point. So as a lone soldier, right, in the IDF, we got a special right called a meyuchedet, which basically was a special leave to visit home to our family. So in 2022, I was home in the States, and after about a year of my service, I decided to visit my sister who went to Binghamton during the SantaCon weekend. And so I was there, and it was like such a wholesome moment because a year later, like, times really changed. I was not home at SantaCon. I just literally finished a month in Gaza, and I'm calling my sister, and I called my parents, and my brother and my sister for the first time in over a month. And lo and behold, my sister calls me. She was at SantaCon, and I was like, "Wow, this is like a pretty special moment." Especially the first time I'm talking to her in a month that she was there, and I felt like it was a really cool thing to share in the book. And I'm glad I was also able to shout you out, Skylar.
Thank you.
That dichotomy of your sisters at SantaCon, I mean, I think that kind of delves into it where she's here, she's Jewish, she's in America, but in America, while what's going on is going on in Israel and Gaza, nothing's really happening here except a bunch of people talking on stage and using a microphone.
No, but by the way, I was at Binghamton at the same time as your sister was, and I could barely restrain myself, and I didn't have family there. So I can't imagine. I'd lose my mind.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely lose my mind.
Listen, it was hard for my mom, my dad, and my brother and my sister. Both my sister was in Binghamton, my brother was in school as well. And there was a lot of, it was definitely hard for them to focus at moments. And they also, I think the first few weeks were hard. And then they knew they had to live life as well, while also, caring for me. And also there's nothing you could do.
So if you had to go back.
Yeah.
If you could go back, if there's a time machine, obviously you may want to be in different places at different times to help prevent certain things happening. I get that. Would you make the same decision?
What, to go serve?
Sure.
Yeah, 100%. Like a million times over. It was the best and also one of the easiest decisions of my life. Like, I really, when I knew I wanted to do it, it wasn't like I was on the fence about anything. I knew I wanted to do it, and it was a matter of just whether I was willing to actually, do it and put the action to my words. I would do it a million times over. If you're saying would I do it again, I'm like, I miss the Army a lot. I really do. I also think that for me, I obviously gave my time and more than I ever had to Israel. And I live here in America now. Also, medically, I just had some back issues that really got messed up from the Army that I think continuing to serve in a combat role would just make things worse. That it is more important in many ways to not be there, even though I would love to, especially because I wouldn't be serving with my friends. I would be in some random other
Yeah.
And with that all being said, because I'm not there, I feel like getting to write this book, to share with communities all over. And I think we talked a little bit last time on the podcast that right now I'm planning on like a much larger book tour for the fall. I'm going to be traveling across the country, which is a really cool experience for me to get to meet all these different communities. And also, I think really special to share about what's happening on the ground, while I'm here and not there.
In wrapping up, I'll ask you, like, what do you hope people know? Not just about you, but about IDF soldiers, about the war.
Yeah. Listen, one of the points in my book is you could probably tell is it's a very casual book. And it's not casual in that it's inappropriate or whatever. It's casual in that it sounds like this podcast, right? It just me sitting down with you, having a conversation, and I say jokes in there, and I'm serious. I say jokes, and one of my intentional parts is that I was joking at certain times, but when it was time to get serious, I was going to be serious in the book. I really wanted people to understand that IDF soldiers are people at the end of the day. People who are making hard decisions in hard moments and who are there to protect their people. If the readers can take away one thing, it's the humanness and the personableness of me and as IDF soldiers as a whole. I'm not representing all IDF soldiers, not in the least bit. But I'm not showing that we are people and that we are doing the right thing and at least striving to do the right thing. I hope and I think so.
I'd agree.
What, that IDF soldiers are trying to do the right thing?
Well, that and the fact that I think his book
Like humanizes
a story that a lot of people have turned into something else.
From your perspective, American citizen, lone soldier in the IDF, now back, do you think there'll ever be peace in the Middle East?
It's $1 million question. But I can say I hope so, and I don't see it now. Like I don't. I think as long as people are being taught to hate others more than to love them themselves, then there's not going to be peace. I think Israel's priority is and always should be to protect their own people and to always put out the arm in the case that someone's willing genuinely to work with them, but Israel needs to be secure first. And I don't think that Israel should sacrifice any protection of their people and security for the hope of some sort of peace that doesn't really
It's not
exist.
real.
Yeah, and like peace is also peace is a weird thing to say then, because we have the situation with Egypt, for example, that is phenomenal. And like we were in major wars with them. Anwar Sadat surprise attacks us in 1973 on Yom Kippur. We're in this huge war. Really, the Yom Kippur War was the biggest blunder in Israel's history up until October 7th. Right? It was atrocious. 4 years later, Sadat visits Israel, goes to Jerusalem, and the next year signs the Camp David Accords. Is there peace between Israel and Egypt? Not exactly. Is there like a understanding of,
Peace is a subjective term.
Yeah, yes, and like peace is subjective term, but there is.
But the two countries coexist.
Exactly, that's right. They coexist. That's obviously Sadat was killed for that. Not what's the word? Assassinated
yeah.
for that. But there is coexistence. Could it happen? Sure. I will say also it's easier to coexist with your neighbor than people within your own border, and that's a situation and the reality within the river to the sea per se. But
The river to the sea.
I think it's true. Like that's whatever you want to call the West Bank or Gaza.
Yeah.
And like I also think they're very different territories in and of itself. Like the Gaza was handed over to Palestinian leadership. Is it Palestine? No, it's called Gaza. It's run by a terrorist organization. They not effed up. They chose to attack us. Now it's in a different situation. The West Bank was captured by Israel in 1967 after Jordan attacks us. It was Jordanian territory. There was no Palestinian state there. It was Jordanian territory. And then the only reason that we didn't retreat is because security-wise, staying along the Jordan Valley in the West Bank, overlooking Jordan, was a lot more security-wise, a lot safer than allowing the Jordanians to come back and build up the military again and situate themselves on the mountains of the West Bank, overlooking the valley of the plains of Israel along the coast. And like whatever, I kind of just got this in history there. But my point is I hope that there one day could be peace. I don't think that's happening right now, and I think Israel needs to prioritize its own people and protecting them.
Well, thank you so much for coming back, Ira. This was so much fun. Did you have fun?
I had a very good time.
Do you feel less cynical now?
No.
Okay, that's
Sorry,
aggressive.
listen.
The pizza is aggressive.
The pizza's aggressive.
Yeah,
You like pizza?
I love pizza.
But being cynical, listen, at my age, you get cynical by just getting up in the morning.
Jesus.
Coexisting is just cynical, okay?
The pizza is going to sleep at night.
Exactly. These are the things we worry about, you know. We worry about leaving the world to our children. And what world are we really leaving them?
Sure.
Where, you know, there's violence in every city, there's violence in every country.
Yes.
There's no question. But we are probably have taken, and more importantly, in regard to the topic we're discussing, we've probably taken 3 to 4 steps backwards as Jews, because where anti-Semitism was always something and you could point your finger at it at all times, but it has taken on a much bigger life post-October 7th than pre-October 7th.
You're saying 3 to 4 steps backwards since October 7th.
Yes. Worldwide, in my opinion, and especially here. Again, I'm not in Israel. I'm here, but I think in New York, I mean...
He was about to lose his mind right after October 7th. He was like, what are they doing? Don't they know it's a work day? I was like, no, they don't care. He was like, well, I'm working.
But you know, it's interesting you say that, because do you think it's, I'm interviewing now, do you guys think it's worse here than in Israel?
Very different.
Well,
the threat is different.
The threat is different, but October 7th, we say, was like a moment.
Yeah.
And a lot of Israelis say that since October 7th, the situation in Israel has improved, because we're, you know, not every hostage came home, but we got every hostage home. Israel is militarily doing very well against all the southern fronts.
I think that the situation in Israel is demonstratively different because, well, again, Israel knows who its enemies are.
Yes.
And again, a most impressive country that is surrounded by people that want it to stop existing. But it thrives. It's figured out how to grow food in the desert. Here, we're not surrounded by our enemies. We don't know who they are.
Yeah.
But we are.
And they're ignorant.
Yeah, it's a very different
Because
enemy.
anti-Semitism is an ignorance.
Yeah, it's a very different enemy. And like it's
I have to say I was there during like what Trump likes to call the 12-day war. I got stuck in Israel, and I felt safer there under many circumstances than I do like walking to the subway.
That's not what you said on the phone when you wanted to come home.
I never was scared. You were like, you have to come home. I was like, but I'm shopping.
Oh, boy.
okay. Did we just break America?
America's broken, and you broke it.
Oh, I broke it.
Yeah.
America's definitely broken. Israel, not so much.
You can't break Israel.
No.
Well, many have tried.